Welcome, friends. Non-duality offers us a way to find answers to the perennial questions of what is this life all about? What am I in truth? How can I make the best of this? The way is to fulfill our highest potential, which is to know our own true self. The natural world around us displays striking beauty and harmony. Living beings emerge from the laws of nature and adapt to changes in the environment. Human beings appear as conscious and self-conscious. When this self-consciousness or conscious self is fully realized, then the highest potential is fulfilled. All limitations are dissolved. Non-duality is a path of inquiry in pursuit of the knowledge that removes the not knowing that seems to hide the truth of our own nature. On this journey, we need and develop some great life skills, and foremost among these is the ability to discriminate, to distinguish, to discern. This is the focus of our reflections today. The word discrimination sometimes has negative associations. Here it conveys the original positive meaning. Its highest form is the ability to discriminate between reality and appearances, between truth within and surface impressions. Closely related and essential to us is discrimination between self and not self. And discrimination also means making skillful choices and decisions, the ability to distinguish what is helpful and truly life-enhancing from what is not in our best interests. Developing this capacity involves reflecting deeply on the teachings and down-to-earth practical steps. Focused thinking is itself a practice, and the steps we take need to be well guided in the light of higher wisdom. It will help us on all levels to recognize that much of the time, in fact most of the time in life, we are dealing with appearances, not the whole and absolute truth. And this is clear enough when we think about it. Still, we often forget and act without due consideration. The root of this situation is not that anyone or anything is always trying to deceive us. No. The root is another fact, which is clear when we think of it, but easily forgotten, which is that everything we know about the world comes through our ears and eyes and other sense organs. And all this sense data is organized by our brain and mind. The phenomenal world as we experience it is the outcome of this complex machinery. And this mental image is not at all the same thing as what it is an image of. If we could take away the constraints of our senses and minds and our limited perspective and behold total reality at once as a whole, what would we know? Or what would we be? To seek answers to such questions is the highest use of discrimination. This is not an academic exercise to which we devote a part of our time and attention. It is the priority for our whole life, because to be at one with the real is the sole end of all discontent and fear. When we see a picture hanging on a wall, we may be drawn in by the colors, details, and the expressions on the faces, the overall harmony. What we rarely notice is the canvas. The canvas seems to have no distinguishing features, no immediate appeal, unlike the vibrant qualities of the picture. And yet, without the canvas, there could be no picture. Similarly, the phenomenal world of change and forms that captures our attention could not appear without ultimate reality underlying it. And this is a one-way dependency. The picture depends on the canvas, while the canvas depends on nothing. The ground of being may appear to support an infinite number of potential pictures, yet is never affected by or dependent on any finite form. For seekers, the great challenge is that our bodies, minds, and lives are details in the world picture. Our experience is arranged within the picture's framework. The mind cannot depart from its own workings of perception and conception. We might ask then, does this limitation mean that the real is forever unknowable to us? No. Regarding the real, there are two sources of guidance and one final answer. Firstly, we can know something about what reality is not. Reason leads to the conclusion that reality has no edges and is not divided into parts. Reality is not separated into what is real and one who knows the real. Secondly, there is guidance from the Upanishads and other authoritative sources. This guidance is vital for sincere seekers on the way. For example, it provides the necessary reassurance that reality does underlie our experience and can be uncovered. The final answer is direct realization. And this brings us to the next focus for discrimination, that is, between our self and what is not self. We've probably already understood the inadequacy of the common idea that myself is my body, my mind, my life. Bodies and lives change. We can even lose parts of them. But we know that this does not make me any less myself. We are able to observe our bodies and minds. We can praise and criticize them. Anything that we can observe cannot be our inmost self. Anything we can see cannot be the real me who sees. So we ask, is there anything that doesn't change, that is never observed as an object, and which is the inner seer? And the answer is consciousness, awareness. Careful inquiry and reasoning lead to this conclusion. And the Upanishads assure us it is right. Self is consciousness. Consciousness is self. My being is my awareness. Awareness is being. If this is true, then myself is not limited by anything and is not affected by anything that happens. Friends, this is true. Most important for our inner freedom is the realization that consciousness, self, does not depend on the mind. The mind depends on consciousness, but consciousness does not need mind. When mind is still, our awareness, our being, remains self-luminous and self-established. Still, we know that it is not easy to be free of the feeling that I am my mind. Consciousness is never an object, so the true I am of consciousness is immediately reflected in the mind as I am this. Therefore, we need to carefully develop the liberating capacity to discriminate between ourself, our consciousness, being, and all the thoughts and moods and experiences that are not our inmost self. We develop, by practice, every time we rise above the mind by observing and directing it, we gain inner freedom and balance. These incremental benefits have great significance. So far in our inquiry, applying discrimination, we have concluded that the reality beyond appearances has no boundaries, no internal divisions or changes, no subject-object divide. And we found that our inmost self, pure consciousness, being, does not change, is not affected by events, and is never an object of experience. Does this suggest a convergence? The search for the real and the search for the self seem to be leading in similar directions. The two do converge and together lead to the ultimate freedom. We uncover self by affirming, not this, not this. Self is not this, to all that is finite and changing. So that what remains is the consciousness being that cannot be negated. In doing so, we are simultaneously saying, not this, not this. This is not the absolutely real, to all phenomenal forms and qualities that arise from the workings of the sense organs and mind. So what remains is the consciousness being that cannot be negated. The search for the real is not into something distant and abstract, but what is closest and most immediate, where there is no gap between the knower and the known. And the inquiry into self is not of merely personal interest, as our true self is revealed to be the one in all. Our innermost self is none other than the absolute reality. And the absolute real, whatever we call that, is none other than our innermost self. This challenges everything we thought we knew, but it is the message of the Upanishads and can be verified in direct experience. Let us note that discrimination between the real and appearances does not mean making appearances disappear. It does not mean ignoring the mind and body and their needs. It does not involve withdrawal from active life and society. It does mean ceasing to take appearances as absolutely real and mental states as what I am. Ignorance of our true nature is caused by what the non-dual philosophy calls the superimposition of appearances on reality and reality on the appearances. The liberating knowledge, the consummation of discrimination, is the end of superimposition. We said that alongside the inner inquiry, we also need to exercise discrimination in practical matters, in the everyday choices and decisions we make. Our happiness and well-being depend largely on the condition of our mind, and the condition of our mind is much affected by what we choose to watch, to listen to read, to do with our leisure time. Life experience has taught us the importance of making wise choices, and also that it is not easy. Much of the difficulty arises because so far in life, nothing has proven entirely satisfying. So we lack foundations and are easily distracted. Non-duality holds out the goal of total fulfillment, and with it, clear criteria on which to make choices, large and small, at every step. The truth is that underlying all desires is one great desire for supreme self-realization. Nothing else is entirely fulfilling, and this is the ultimate driving force behind all human striving. Until we understand this, our energies flow away in many shallow channels. When we know that the great goal is possible and decide to pursue it, then all the other choices and decisions are made accordingly, and all the streams and rivulets of desire are drawn into one deep, powerful current. If we feel that the years are passing us by to no purpose, let us remember that the true goal is self-knowledge, and we can seek it whatever our situation. Waiting for more favorable circumstances is only postponing what is essential. We needed our life experience to bring us to this point. Having recognized the essential, we can now consciously pursue it. In principle, discrimination is simple. In practice, it is subtle and many layered. Before we conclude, let us reflect further on an essential distinction at the heart of our philosophy and practice. What is needed is a change in our sense of identity. The aim is to affirm our identity as the one who sees, not what is seen. To affirm that we are the one who knows, not what is known. We need to discriminate with care here. As commonly understood, seeing is an activity which is done by the eyes and imagination together with part of the brain. Similarly, knowing is a mental activity. Knowing facts is done by the mind, the instrument of knowledge. We remember that the eyes and the visual cortex are not in themselves conscious. The mind also, the instrument that knows facts, is not in itself conscious. Only consciousness itself is conscious. Therefore, the process of seeing done by the eyes and the process of knowing done by the mind is not at all the same as the consciousness of the outcomes of those processes. In this sense, the eye does not see as a telescope does not see. The mind does not know as a database does not know. The ultimate seer is consciousness, self alone. The ultimate knower is self alone. The activity of seeing changes as we shift and adjust our focus. The process of knowing changes as we reason and conclude. These changing processes can be observed. Consciousness, self, does not change and can never be observed as an object. It is not involved in or affected by any process. This is why the Upanishad says repeatedly, you cannot see the seer of seeing. You cannot know the knower of knowing. The shift we need is to become convinced of and to affirm our identity as this transcendental self. Truly discriminating between self and not self is a deeper and more subtle step than becoming the witness or observer of the mind. When we practice watching the mind, being the witness of everything around and within us, we immediately gain a sense of expansion, release of tension, inner rejuvenation. This is a good start, but it is not self-realization. Subtle mental machinery is still at work, conditioning our experience. Questions remain unanswered, and the ego identification with the finite remains, latent or patent, ever ready and waiting to reassert its dominance. We know that self is always free and perfect, never in need of anything. What the seeker needs is to negate identification with anything conditioned, however subtle. This is done by affirming the truth of our real nature. With self-realization, all questions, doubts, limitations cease eternally. Until then, we may rest on the way, but should not imagine that the end has been reached. The goal is beautiful, friends, and so is the way. Let us live our lives caring for those around us, fulfilling our responsibilities, remembering that appearances rest on the real, and that what we really love in those around us is the deeper self where there is no separation. For a few moments now, let us meditate together on this. I am not this, I am not that, but the radiance in both. I am not this, I am not that, but the radiance in both. Thank you for joining me.